welcome everybody. Welcome all the people online. Eric Yankee, and I'm helping co-lead the UUCD Migrant. You're right. Thank you, Sue. I'm helping lead the UUCD Migrant Support Team, Migrant Justice Team that has a lot of wonderful folks here that are helping us out. And so we're just very excited today. We Interfaith, we're participating in the ICMJ, which is the Interfaith Committee for Migrant Justice. And there are woven basket recipients this month, okay? And the important thing I guess I'd like to say is we got a wonderful panel for you. So I'm gonna try to get out of the way here. They don't want to just do one presentation, but get you to hear from really a group of the core members of ICMJ. And I think they'll do a wonderful job of kind of explaining the organization, and then we'll have some Q&A afterwards. I'm gonna hand it to Charlotte. Okay.
Welcome, everyone.
First off, I just want to thank UUCD for the decision to designate the month of September's Woven Basket offering for ICMJ, which stands for the Interfaith Committee for Migrant Justice. And I want to thank you all for being here this morning. Those of you who are online, as well as those of you who want to also thank, now we get a little bit of an echo. I want to thank those of you who are here in person, as well as those of you who are online. My name is Charlotte France, and the first time I came to UUCD to talk about immigration was back in 2019, before COVID. I had the opportunity to be with you, and I've been here several times since. Back in 2015, the first time I tried to retire, I knew that I wanted to devote some of the time in retirement to immigration issues. My son, as some of you know, is an international adoptee, and through my experience with him, I learned firsthand how difficult it can be to navigate our immigration system. So I wanted to use some of my retirement time to do what I could for newly arrived immigrants. What I didn't know was I didn't know how quickly things would change. I didn't know how much I needed to learn, and I had no idea how involved I would become. I want to begin this panel discussion this morning by talking a little bit about ICMJ, but first I want to say something about what this forum is not. This forum is not about any of the individuals whom we are accompanying, and it's not about any of their cases. Partly we want to be protective of immigrants' privacy, and partly all the immigrants that we accompany have come by various routes. Their stories are very unique, and we can't say, oh, they, and then give you information that is applicable to all of them. So this is not about any of the individuals that we are accompanying. The other thing that this is not about is this is not about our current immigration policy or enforcement. And part of that's because between being governed by executive orders and then situations being challenged in the courts, the situation changes literally from day to day. And so we're not here to talk about, well, has TPS really been revoked for this particular group of immigrants? Because whatever we say today, A, may not be true, B, might change tomorrow. So we're limiting the scope of this particular forum to the work of ICMJ, which has changed over the last years, but still is focused on how do we accompany newly arrived immigrants and foreign nationals in our community. And that's what we want to talk about. I'd say there are three major thrusts to ICMJ's work. We offer support to immigrants. We network with others to advocate on behalf of immigrants. And we work at expanding our community's understanding and welcome of immigrants and foreign nationals. When you came in, you may have gotten a chart like this that attempts to put on paper a little bit of what we do and how we do it. And you'll see that there are 6 small circles that kind of try to capture some of the activities of ICMJ. And they're placed on the perimeter of the big circle. It's marked ICMJ, but they're placed in differing positions on that periphery. Because some of the things that we do are hosted and sponsored by ICMJ, like a lot of our educational events we offer to the community. But a lot of our work is done in relationship to community partners. For instance, the community safety work that we do isn't just ICMJ, it's rather that it's people from the community working together on issues of community safety for immigrants, and ICMJ provides a substantial part of the leadership of that group, but it's really a community group, it's not an ICMJ thing. So that's why the circles are positioned as they are. And as we go through this morning, we'll talk about some of the kinds of activities that happen within the different aspects of our work. So with that, I'm going to pass this off to Dory, and she's going to talk a little bit about sort of the general history of ICMJ and where we came from.
Hi, I'm Dory Schulblum, and I'm glad to be here today to tell you a little bit about the history of the Interfaith Committee for Migrant Justice, or we also call it ICMJ for short. It had its beginnings in we had about 4 immigration forums presented by the El Salvador team at First Lutheran Church back in April of 2019, or March of 2019, I guess it was. So, because our churches had a relationship with the community of San Antonio, Los Ranchos, in El Salvador since early 1998, and has had delegations to and from there since 2016. Or the last one was from 2016. Since COVID, we have met online where we continue to learn about each other's hopes and struggles. But during the last of those 4 immigration forums, we had a St. Scholastic student named Abigail Flanagan. She presented a forum on her trip to the southern border. During the discussion, a member of First Lutheran and the El Salvador team, Brooks Anderson, you probably know him, suggested that we take to the streets. So Beth Holst from FLC later called him to discuss that call to action. Soon some of our church members of Peace Church, the Loaves and Fishes community, and others, we had about 10 people I think in the beginning, started meeting to plan this call to action. So from these meetings in early 2019, we chose the date, the time, theme, wrote a statement on immigration, chose speakers and musicians, and chose starting and ending places. So on that rainy day, June 23rd, we met at the Minnesota Power Plaza to hear speakers and musicians. And then we marched to the federal building for music and prayers focusing on immigrants. Some folks carried a banner with our theme, Spirit of Hope, a walk and prayer for vigil for migrants as we walked. And at the federal building, our statement on immigration, which is probably in a brochure somewhere here, was read. People were urged to sign a petition with that statement on it, which some of us will later bring to Representative Pete Stauber's office to encourage him to ask the president to raise the number of refugees let into our country. Later, some of us met with Senator Tina Smith's staff with copies of the petition, and those also were brought to Senator Amy Klobuchar's office in Virginia. So from that time on, our committee has grown to the present 238 members, continue to meet to plan events, getting updates from those who host immigrants and volunteer at the Welcome Center, those involved in statewide advocacy organizations, those who have met with local and county law enforcement, and those who work on finding resources to help migrants. In closing, I want to quote Brooks Anderson, who tells what a person from the Los Ranchos community told him: "You have to go home and do what you can to change your government's policies." And I think ICMJ is helping fulfill that request, along with these words from our statement on immigration. All faith traditions profess the value of each human life. We make this passionate plea that our beloved nation show respect and care for our migrant sisters and brothers from all parts of the world.
Buenos dias. Good morning. My name is Susana Pelayo Woodward, and I'm also a member of ICMJ. I have been very fortunate and very thankful to our community to welcome us into this community. As many of you know, I'm an immigrant from Mexico, and I have lived here longer than I lived in Mexico. I've been here since 1984. And I actually came, and my host mom, I call her my mom, is Sherry Bridges. So I have been in this community for a long time, and so I was just very taken when I heard that ICMJ was forming, and I heard actually from Charlotte, and I said, I want to join, I want to be part of this amazing group of people. And so I have been a member since then. So we have evolved, as Charlotte said. We had the vision of maybe having a space where migrants can come and get together and being able for them to maybe practice English, play games. It's just a safe place where they could just be themselves. And one of our members, Michelle, had the idea to say, I think we should do it. And we're like, okay, how can we do it? And we need to find a space. We are very thankful to Trinity Lutheran Church that we're able to offer us a free space. It's not a big space, but we have a room where they don't charge us any money, and we are able to congregate there. And right now, last year we were open on Thursdays and Sunday. It has changed, and then we went to Tuesdays and Thursdays. Right now we only open once a week, and actually we have a meeting this evening to talk about reopening the center twice a week. And it's a group of volunteers. There's usually 2 of us that volunteer, and then just open the space and welcome anyone that wants to come. Many of our asylum seekers, some of our Afghan refugees. It changes who comes to the space. We had a little budget, and we were able to buy some games. So we have some games. We have some books in English. And then depending on the day, when I have volunteered, we have one of our members that comes and loves to play Uno. So, hey, we play Uno. And that's what we do, just play Uno and practice some words in English. We also have some snacks and tea, water and coffee. And it's just a time for us to be in community with each other. We don't talk about politics, we don't talk about anything, more about just getting to know each other in a human way with each other and build that relationship with each other. So if any of you are interested, just let us know at the end, and we will welcome your support. We're always in need of volunteers. Thank you. And now I pass the microphone to
Good morning, I'm Dorothy Ravel, and I guess my role is to share some of my experience as a sponsor and host. I don't know that I ever made a conscious, thought-out decision to do that, but I was kind of like fertile ground because families were being separated at the border, and it was such a horrible, horrible time, and I went with a group of Lutherans down to the border and met women and children who had made these horrible trips. Anyway, I was right for something, and of course along comes Charlotte. And I'm at the University for Seniors, and she has a woman and her sister, one of them has a baby, and they need a sponsor because someone she knew in Arizona had asked her if she could find somebody. And I just said, we can do that. I've got a big house with empty rooms. And so that kind of started it. Now they never did come. They found a cousin, I think, living down south, which was probably much better otherwise for them. But it kind of got me into the process, and somehow I connected with an organization in Tennessee that finds sponsors for people. And so I did have several possibilities that didn't happen. But then I did get someone, and since I probably, I can't remember how many years ago, but the experience has really been a good one. It's these people have come into our house, our home, And what happens is that they become part of the family. And they come and then they leave, they go other places, but part of you always goes with them. So it has the same ups and downs as it does with children. Sometimes things are good, sometimes things aren't so good. But the responsibilities that go with that are not horrendous. They're providing basic needs and giving them support. For some reason I'm blanking here. I don't know that I had anything specific to say, but it's to just get to know these people. They become part of your heart, so that when things don't go well, it's just as painful as the people that you've known your whole life. And right now, of course, there's the added situation of fear. Everybody's afraid, and I think that's it's been a good thing for me because it keeps me so at the point of wanting to do something, knowing that this is the time where we have to get out on the streets and protect these people. They have gone through so much. Sometimes when I find out more about the stories of the people that have been with me and that are with me currently, I think, I don't know that I could ever have done that and survived. They are incredibly strong people. And it's just wonderful to know that there really are a lot of people supporting them. And I guess that's all I have to say.
Thank you. I get blamed for pulling people into this, but it really has been a joy to watch ICM grow and to see people step up and say, I can do that. That's just been marvelous over the last, 10 years that I've been doing this now. I'm going to talk just briefly about some of our community partners because ICMJ is really sort of a network, and the community partners all have their own structure and their own way of doing things, and sometimes that presents a little bit of a challenge to ICMJ as a group, but it also allows us to do a lot of work and to help people do the work that they feel particularly called to do, and we can respect that. So on your sheet, in the box down at the bottom where it talks about community partnerships, Hildegard House, which is a Catholic worker, an offshoot of the Catholic worker movement where Michelle, Mara, Obed, and Greg live, that's been sort of one of the central places for asylum seekers. And they've had a number of asylum seekers come and live for a while at Hildegard House. Peace Church made the decision that they really wanted to focus on Afghan resettlement. Back in 21, there was a government program that allowed groups of individuals to come together and do the resettlement work that used to be done by resettlement agencies. And Peace Church said, we want to do that, and they formed what was called a sponsor circle. And we were sort of coached by a resettlement agency, and initially we resettled 4 Afghan women here in Duluth. That little community is now up to 11, as the original 4 had friends and family and eventually a spouse who have all come to Duluth and are part of our Afghan community. Gloria Day and First Lutheran chose to work together, and they have a group, a migrant justice group, that helps support a particular asylum seeker who lives with one of their families. And that's in addition to the kind of partnership that First Lutheran has had with a sister parish in El Salvador that Dory talked about. That was sort of the beginning inspiration for this. UUCD has a migrant justice team, and Sherry and Eric are primary folks there, and they have their own organizational way of helping with some particular families. Trinity Lutheran Church, when anybody asks me about Ukrainians, I say, talk to somebody at Trinity. They know about that. I know about Afghans, they know about Ukrainians. But a number of Ukrainians were here in Duluth, and Trinity stepped up to welcome them. Trinity also makes lots of space available to us, including their fellowship hall for community gatherings. The Twin Ports Welcome Corps crew is a combination of United Presbyterian Church in Superior and Temple, Israel. And I have no idea how that happened. I only know that I got a phone call from somebody that said, we have a group that wants to be involved in some way. Can you come talk to us? And I had actually done an interim at United Presbyterian Church. So I was glad to go talk with them and happy to see that they had come that far. Right now, they see their primary role as doing fundraising. And so last spring, Koresh, I saw him here earlier, yes, cooked a wonderful meal, and they raised a lot of money, half of which went to ICMJ and half of which went to the Afghan Resettlement Project. So thank you very much. And this just demonstrates how there are lots of different ways to be involved in the work. And we are really appreciative for each organization's efforts. The YWCA has taken a number of initiatives focused on finding out what are the needs of immigrant women in particular. And they have applied for a grant that will help us, help the people that we are working with, because they did a lot of focus groups with immigrant women and discovered what some of the needs were. And they have the ability to apply for some help that religious organizations aren't able to ask for. So they've been a really good partner. ISD 709 does adult education. I've been surprised how many people in Duluth don't know about ELL classes, but Robert Turner teaches ELL down at the Adult Learning Center, and most of the folks that we work with get to that class as often as they can. And they've been a wonderful partner as well. I mean, we've wanted to reach out to folks. We go and visit the classroom there. Robert helps to get information out to people. So there are lots of different ways to be a part of this work, and we just encourage both individuals and groups to think about what is it that we can do. And last spring, you all reached out to international students. That was a part of the work too, and that was what you felt comfortable doing, and you did it really well. And so I think the next speaker is Susanna, that's going to talk about international students.
No, I think it's Joanne.
Oh, Joanne's next.
Sorry. I can do it now, okay. Yes, thank you to UUC. Thank you for hosting us last spring. It was a wonderful event for our students. The work ICMJ also has been to reach out to international students here at in the Duluth community, so international students at St. Scholastica, University of Minnesota Duluth, Lake Superior College, University of Wisconsin Superior. I work at the University of Minnesota Duluth. Part of my office is also working with international students, so I know, and I was an international student myself many years ago, so I know how important it is for students to feel that they are welcome into our communities. They are going to be living in Duluth for 4 or 5 years. So during the pandemic, I will tell you that ICMJ reached out to me and said, how can we assist you? Because we knew many of our students couldn't go home. Many of the families couldn't send them money. So the help that we got from many of you was gift cards, money. So it was able for our students to have food And so that was one of the work that we did to help them pay rent, being able for them to pay some of their supplies. The university was flexible. And this is what happened at UMD leaves. So that was also very helpful for ICGM to reach out, and Peace Church, they were very generous. And thank you to Charlotte again for reaching out, and very generous in helping our students through those difficult times during the pandemic. Being able to have a meal, being in community, I think last time was a wonderful experience for many of our students. And thank you again. You are going to invite us again into UUC October, sometime in October, we're talking about it. And so it's just, I think it's just a nice way to, in a different way, of how we can also reach to students that are here, international students from all over the world, that are so far away from their families, they don't have anyone here, except sometimes it's the people that are assisting them at the university. So being able to connect with the community. So that's another part of how ICGM has helped and assisted with reaching out to a different kind of, these students are coming with a visa, they're here for a purpose to study and to get a degree and going back to their home countries. But also they're here for 4 or 5 years. So this is I always tell them, this is your new home. So how can we help you to make sure that you take advantage of all the wonderful things that this community has to offer? Thank you.
Hi, I am Joe Bates, and I have never spoke with the microphone before, so I appreciate your patience and your help. If I can't be heard, I need to know. I came to ICMJ after working with the Welcome Center. My mother was an immigrant, but I knew very little about the plight of present-day immigrants. One of the most reassuring things I do is work with a group of people called the Immigrant Defense Network. Their dedication and ingenuity are very encouraging. They are a group of organizations and some individuals, and we're specifically focused on Greater Minnesota, outside the metro area. Some of the organizations that you might recognize include the American Civil Liberties Union, COPOL, Faith and Justice, Land Stewardship. One of the things we do is trade resources. When ICMJ was one of the first to reach out to the sheriffs, we shared that document with other members. When we expressed interest in self-deportation, the other members provided information on the pros and cons of self-deportation. Our group has a policy paper to help one group in that defense network has a policy paper to help schools keep kids safe. They are willing to share that contract. We are all watching the 287G contracts. If you're not aware of what those are, they're a contract which is essentially makes the sheriff's office an indentured servant to ICE. There are a handful of counties in this state who have signed this agreement. Immigrant Defense Network members continue to monitor and maintain relationships with sheriffs, whether or not they have signed the 287G contracts. A sampling of other things that have been shared when we meet is some are helping those who have lost health coverage by working with free clinics. Some are assisting people with making security plans. Some people are tracking new prisons. And I have something for all of you to do. We all should be watching for expanding prisons. ICE can offer to finance, but with the caveat that the sheriff agrees to sign the 287G contract. Likely, that means ICE will control the facility. We want to know about that. One group helps with community support for people who've lost jobs. That should give you some idea of the power of association. Thank you for inviting us and inviting me to talk with you.
Thanks, Joanne. You did really well. The last thing that we wanted to talk about, and then we'll go to the question and answer session, is community safety. We were one of the first to, back in 2016, we actually met with the chief of police, at that time Mike Tuscan, and reviewed the handbook for the Duluth Police Department and their training manual to make sure that it was, that it provided for the safety of immigrants. So we were one of the early folks to be alert to that. And we have stayed in touch with our law enforcement folks. Right now, we have a group that has a lot of leadership from ICMJ that's working on plans for a Duluth rapid response. And we're not quite live yet, but within the next couple of weeks, there'll be a hotline number that people can call if they should see ICE activity here in Duluth. And we're working on training folks to be able to intervene in those kinds of situations. One thing that, and I will take this as my personal bias, one thing that I feel really strongly about is that know your rights is really important right now. It's important that immigrants know what their rights are, but it's also really important for those of us who are white, who are citizens, who are much less likely to encounter ICE, to know what our neighbors' rights are so that we can encourage them. They have the right to remain silent. They have the right to privacy. ICE cannot come into their home to do a search unless they have a judicial warrant, which is signed by a judge. They have the right to consult an attorney before signing any papers. And there are lots of stories from other parts of the country in which folks who are citizens, because they know what those rights are able to encourage migrants and Black and brown people who are encountering ICE to stand up for their rights. It's also really important to know what your rights are in terms of if you should witness an encounter with ICE. You do have the right to videotape, and we know that that has made a big difference when someone has been detained and the community is trying to get them released. Those kinds of witnessing by videotape, for example, is really important. There's a little summary of Know Your Rights that I brought along today, but I tell you, there's lots of stuff on the internet. There's a very good short video by ACLU that talks about your rights in witnessing any kind of encounter. I know that many organizations in our community are preparing people for the possibility of encounters with ICE, and I was not surprised, for instance, that there's training in the schools about what to do if ICE comes. But I was surprised when I talked to a friend of mine yesterday who said his 14-year-old son has a small after-school job helping care for younger kids in a school program. And he said in the orientation, the 14-year-old came home saying part of the orientation was what to do if ICE comes. So I'm reassured that many places in our community seem to be aware that this could happen and trying to prepare people. But my plea would be know what your rights are, know what your neighbor's rights are, and don't be afraid to speak up, because it certainly appears as if many communities might be targeted by ICE at this point. So, you want to say a few words about UUCD and ICMJ? Oh, all these acronyms.
Hi, I just wanted to say a couple quick things. As Charlotte mentioned earlier, we are helping a few families, and it was by way of networking through ICMJ that we were able to connect with those families. Our main focus has been material support, like helping get food to them on a weekly basis from Second Harvest. If there's needs for the apartment or furniture, you know, kind of putting out the call to get things to help them just have a, you know, a place to lay their head. You know, and then kind of expanding from there, getting to know what the needs are. There's a lot of fear and there's a lot of, you know, just worry about how to deliver this kind of material support without in any way exposing these folks or putting them in harm's way. And that's been hard on everybody. I mean, it's as you can imagine, we have, for instance, a family with some kids, and they've been cooped up all summer long, you know, afraid to go out in the community at all through the summer for fear of what might happen if they might get detained or picked up. So school starts, and now we're worrying about, you know, will something happen, you know, on the way to school or getting out of school. So we're going to continue our group to, you know, sort of network and provide material support where we can, and we're just looking for more help from the community to keep doing that. I think Dorothy might have mentioned, you know, it's messy. You know, they're human beings, and you start to find a little bit of the stories, and some things are bad, some are good, and that doesn't matter. What matters the most is that we help them to be able to take care of themselves, you know, on a week-to-week basis, and do what we can in a very human fashion to show them that there are people here who really care, and who can do what we can to help. So I'll keep it vague, you know, for right now. I just want to say that the group that has been on our email list and that we've been kind of having Zoom meetings, we're going to try to regularize our Zoom meetings for UUCD so that if people want to join us, then we kind of get into a little more detail of what, you know, what the nature of the support is. And we're just looking for more folks that want to help with that.
Can I make an announcement really quick?
You may.
Before we go to questions, because it goes very well with what Charles said. So on September 19, you're all invited. The Immigrant Defense Network and COPAL will be in Duluth doing another training. It is at Trinity Church at 6 p.m. I'm sorry I didn't bring any flyers. And it's about the training on constitutional observers. And it goes very hand in hand about learning what your rights are and what is the rights of many of us are brown or are Latino, Latinx, or from as an immigrant. And so it is at 6 p.m. at Trinity Church, and so you are welcome to attend if you would like to learn more. I know that through the community there have been different trainings, and I always say that it doesn't hurt to have another training, but this is sponsored by COPAL and the Immigrant Defense Network, and it's on Friday, September 19 at 6 p.m.
I know we're not talking about individual people, but I just thought, I think I want to share this. The very first person that I had, who eventually did get his asylum granted, he was detained at the California border. He arrived here with his pregnant wife. He got detained. She had to make the choice, did she want to go to prison and have the baby in jail, or to go back to China? And she went back to China. So the baby was born over there, and it was a long story. Just at the end, somehow he did get his asylum accepted and has a job, and somehow was able to get his wife and his son, who is now 5, that he had never seen except on video, in this country like 2 days ago. So small miracles are still there. We just have to hope and pray that they stay.
One thing we'd love to do, I don't know if this is working today, I can't get it to work. So I'm going to pass around, this is the woven basket recipient for the month, so if we'll be mentioning it at the service too, but if you aren't going to the service or you'd like to give now, I'll start with Sally and we'll pass that basket around. And Eric, I think we only have about 10 minutes for questions, but Eric will be happy to, I'm still not working this.
Okay.
So as people have questions, just feel free to speak up loudly as I try to figure this out.
And maybe for the sake of the folks on Zoom, if the question comes in, if you could repeat the question or repeat so that people know what's going on. So I can moderate it. Anybody want to ask me questions?
You want to check online?
Oh, Brett, are you checking online? Brown check online, okay.
Yeah, Sal,
Yeah.
Sally had a comment.
Oh.
I'm sorry, Beth had a comment.
Okay, we know that you're working on a rapid response. So this is not exactly about that rapid response, but what if someone was anticipating an ICE raid in the cities or something and has heard through their pipeline that there's a more safe place to go in Duluth? How does the pipeline work up here to identify that person coming in? Is there anything beyond your own rapid response to ICE raid here that would let that person integrate themselves into your protective cocoon here?
Small picture response to that.
Yeah, quick repeat the question and then.
So the question was, if somebody in a different location is looking for a safe place to go and deems that Duluth might be that safer place, how might they connect with us? So one of the small ways that that could be done is through that Immigrant Defense Network. I missed mentioning that they are making a resource that is protected. I think I just lost this. I think the battery went dead, probably, the lights on.
All right, pass it
Let me-
over here. Do a follow-up to that.
Sure, this one's working. Thanks, everyone. Keep it going, you're doing great.
So, they are making a resource with names and locations and people you can reach out to for various things.
Don't you have to be safe about how you do emails and how you do phone calls? Because all of that stuff can be intercepted.
So, I only know the answer for this specific document. They have, two potential sources. They have IT people or people in the know about safety and the internet, looking at all that, and they have two good, safe resources, one of which they will choose and put it on there. So yes, they have been very concerned about that.
I would also say that most folks don't make those kinds of decisions in isolation. They're in contact with people that are already here, for example. One of the things that I don't know, I don't know the reason, but I have heard from two different sources that there's been an influx of non-English speakers in Duluth within the last couple of months. And I don't know why they have come, but my suspicion is that it might be feeling like Duluth is a safer place. One of the sources that where I witnessed that is that I work in the kitchen down at Damiano on weekends as a volunteer. And I know that Flo has talked about having observed more non-English speakers coming through the line than had been previous. So we're taking some of the information that we have down there so that our information can be a distribution point for our information as well as places like the ELL. But most people are kind of in a network and then they hear about coming here and then they know somebody already here. I think that's the way it happens more often.
I just wanted to comment, we lived in Chicago for many years and have friends who are still active in immigrant defense there. And you may not know this, but Tom Homan said Chicago's a difficult place to find immigrants because everybody has been taught their rights.
Been taught their rights.
Yeah.
Another question or two?
What's the extent of ICE raids right now? Has there been any, or is this something we're preparing for, or?
Does anybody particularly want to answer that question? Should I go for it?
Just go for it.
There have been two incidences where roofers were taken. The first incident we really don't know much about. The second, but both of these were on the news. The second incident, it turned out that the folks that were taken were actually legally here and legally working, and they were returned to the work site eventually. But, you know, those kinds of incidents kind of are an alert signal to us that we probably want to be prepared for the possibility.
Charlotte and panel, I've heard all the things about, as a citizen, being prepared if you're going to observe, if you're observing something happening. Is there a little something you could keep in your wallet? Because I think it would be really kind of, you want to be absolutely positive of your information. Do you have any little handout thing about what the citizen should be saying, observing?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
I have one.
So we have this, and then if you want more, I do have lots of them in my office, and I usually carry them in my car, but I have to clean my car, so they're in my office. But I have lots of cards and and if you attend even if you cannot attend the training that we're doing on September 19th, I'll make sure that I'll send some to Sherry and Eric, and there's these little booklets that give you more information. But you can have one of these, and we can send more to you so that you can have here in the congregation. But we have these little cards, and then the one, something like this too, that is a little bigger. So I think that's a great question.
We have time for one more question.
I think this is a global problem. The issue just in the United States, the idea of immigrants coming and various responses from various governments, particularly in Europe, that are on the repressive side. Are there equivalents to citizen groups such as this one in other countries that you know about, and do you exchange information, or have you learned anything from the experiences in other countries?
I'm in connections with a colleague that lives in Amsterdam. Maybe some of you know her, Dr. Tineka Ritmester, was a professor at UND for many years. She's very active in Amsterdam, and so she and I usually exchange ideas of things that they're doing, very similar, forming communities responses, marching, and so trying to educate the community. As Amsterdam was very welcome to immigrants, now it has become very conservative and anti-immigrant. So I know about the work that she's doing. I'm originally from Mexico. Mexico has been a route for many migrants coming towards the United States. Now that they are not able to come into the United States, many immigrants from Venezuela, Honduras, Central America, I mean, they're from all over the world are staying in Mexico. So you're finding the same response from many times in Mexico. So I'm in connection with colleagues in Mexico City about some of the work to educate each other about the rights of immigrants. Mexico has been more welcoming, trying to give them jobs and employment, but sometimes there's some of that ignorance about where people are going. But it has, in Mexico, it has become a big issue because now many of them were planning to come to the United States, and many of them now are in Mexico. There's a new caravan that just started in the border coming from Central America, and their route is not coming to the United States. It's going to Monterrey, Nuevo León. And the reason for Monterrey is because there's employment there. So that caravan, as they've been interviewed to the media, they're like, no, we're not going to the United States. What we plan is to go to Monterrey. And it's very specific. We're going to that state, which is in the northern part of Mexico. And some of the discussion is like, how long can Mexico continue to have absorb so many immigrants when they don't have enough employment for their own people, but it's also has to be welcoming because many people are leaving their home countries. I would say people don't choose to say one day, oh, I'm gonna leave my home, the people that I love, the food that I love, and it's many times out of desperation, either because of war, is it because economic situation. So, but people don't choose just to say, I'm just gonna go to a place that I don't speak the language, people don't simply wanna welcome me there. So I think many immigrants, it's a decision that is very difficult. as many of us that have migrated to this country, unless you were an indigenous person or were ancestors, so your ancestors, many made that decision to come to this country. So, as you're right, I mean, I think this is something that is happening all over the world right now. But that's my own experience from those two, Amsterdam and Mexico. Anyone
Well, let's shall wrap things up.
else? Oh, yes, all right.
I just wanted to say that, did you put the, what you can do? Yeah, there's a sheet of paper on the table over there if you're interested in being on a mailing list, or if there's some way in which you'd like to volunteer, pick one of those up and fill it out. I'd invite any of the panel members that can hang out here for a few more minutes in case you have individual questions that you want to ask any of us. I want to thank the panel for being here and being part of this. And thank you all for your attentiveness and your questions.